concerned, it was that man driving the Seat, and he was Gilles. Fernando Gilles came through there. So let's see what day 3 had to offer.
Day 3 of the Dakar 2002, and the hero of French rally raiding, Richard Sanct, was certainly on form. Whilst in the motorcycles, Nani Roma had a good day en route to Madrid. Whilst in the car section, gentleman from Belgium, Gregoire de Mavius, had a stunning day in his brand new Nissan. Well, this is a quick look back at what happened yesterday. No prizes for guessing what the conditions were like for the latter runners. This was at the 6-kilometre stage at La Souterraine in the middle of France. Terrible weather conditions. And it was, well, it was a Christmas chocolate mousse for some people. As you can see, sometimes completely out of control. Plugging their way through a brand new cars for many people, the mechanics having spent thousands of hours on their machines, preparing them through many a month for the preparations before they left the town of Arras in the north of France. And then they do about 30 meters into the stage, and it is caked in mud. Four-wheel drive may be everything for many conditions, but sometimes it's just not enough. And of course, for the two-wheel drive machines, well, no explanation needed. And after a while, there's just nothing like a bit of John Deere agricultural engineering. Oh, they would be so proud in the deep south. Oh, they would be so proud in other parts of the world. Now, many of the cars had fitted smoother specification of tyres for the long road sections through Europe, predominantly, of course, on the autoroutes and the motorways and the A roads. And of course, they were just not suited at all for the terrible conditions once they got to Souterraine. Well, it was either a John Deere or it was a Fendt tractor. Fendt tractors, the Rolls-Royce of tractors. You ought to know that if you're a farmer. OK, then, on to the finish, actually in the town of Narbonne, down in Provence, right down in the south of France. And even at 10 o'clock at night, thousands and thousands of people were there to see South Africa's Alfie Cox come over the finishing ramp after a long day in the saddle. Smiling as always was Alfie, and after the 530-kilometre road section, no bigger smile than that on the face of Pierre Quinareno on his KTM, who was victorious on the stage. So that was yesterday. What about today? Day 3 of Dakar 2002. The stage from Narbonne with a short road section of 21 kilometres down to Château Las Tours, same place as we went last year, and then an enormous road section, 850 kilometres around the outskirts of Barcelona onto the capital city of Spain, Madrid. Many of the spectators had arrived at Château Las Tours before sunrise. And what a sunrise it was. Not many people, though, having a chance to really savour the brilliant, brilliant view. And talk about mud to dust, rags to riches. You can't believe it, can you? The deep, muddy conditions of yesterday, and then the dust of Africa is already in France on the second competitive stage of Dakar 02. a 35-kilometre stage at Château Las Tours, almost catching some people out early on in the twisty sections. And the roads winding their way around a vineyard, which is actually owned by a former Dakar runner and motorsport enthusiast. Quickest on the stage, number 6, with the Gauloise KTM, the hero of French motorcycle rally raiding, Richard Sanct. Certainly was a good stage for him, although he was quite surprised that it was dry actually on the stage. He was overwhelmed with the amount of people along the 35 kilometres, but he was, of course, naturally pleased to have such a following cheering him on. He caught 2 other riders on the stage, and he struggled to get past them. The motorcycle riders going off at 2-minute intervals, so he had a good day. He was happy to attack without so much risk, of course, as it was involved yesterday through the mud. Right then, we move on to number 9. This is Nani Roma, 3rd on the stage, 5 seconds back of winner Richard Sanct. However, he is going to lead the Dakar in the motorcycle section coming out of Château Las Tours into Madrid, his home country, of course. Now we move on to number 10. This is Cyril Desprez. He was 2nd on the stage, and he is the equal leader of the Dakar, dead level with Roma. He passed 3 motorcycles on the stage, and he enjoyed his ride. On to Kari Tiernan, 4th on the stage for the 7-time World Enduro champion. Now, he fitted some very, very soft motocross tyres indeed, and he was expecting to really ruin the rear by the time he got to the finish, and I can tell you that he pretty well nearly did. And the way that he saved that rear was to try to put some of his body weight over the front of the machine rather than put it on the back and obviously wear that rear out. Put it on the rear of the bike rather than on the front, because then, of course, he'd spin up the rear. On to number 4, Esteban Pujol, 5th on the stage. A good day for him as he thrashed through the vineyard. Esteban now up to 5th overall. What about the quads? Well, they had a dusty day through the conditions. And interesting to see the yellow machine here of number 173. He's got a CBR 900 Fireblade engine in there, producing 132 brake horsepower. Think about that when you're in the desert. And also a special Château Las Tours wine for the winner of yesterday's stage, Pierre Quinonero. He had a very small sip at the beginning, not too much, of course. He went on to have a good day through the stage, finishing in 12th position on his KTM. Good day for a privateer, both yesterday and today. On to, this is Giovanni Sala, number 7 on the bike, 7th on the stage. He found it difficult to change his line through the corners, both yesterday in the mud and in the slippery conditions today, of course, with that extra weight of the twin. South Africa's Alfie Cox, 8th on the stage. He was worried about oil pressure. The team fitted an extra gauge just in case they had a faulty reading off the bike. Number 1, Mioni, 9th today, level pegging with Mark Coma on the stage. Not feeling too great was Mioni today, a little ill. And, of course, he said afterwards he could really barely use half of the power out of the V-twin. The V-twin KTM producing well over 100 brake. And he was only using, obviously, some 50 brake. On to Mark Coma of Spain. 9th equal. And this is Mioni and Arcarons at the end of the stage. And Mioni's saying, this on the rocks, they were the size of bowling balls. It was as if we were down a bowling alley.
Io pensavo questo. E dico, ma se io cado, mi ammazzo io, ma ne ammazzo.
No, il pubblico sta poco.
Sì, perché in quella dritta a 150, come fa le persone a stare là?
Unbelievable. This is Cyril Desprez going over to meet his mum. She's just asking him whether or not he's eating well and going to bed early. So then, Richard Sanct leads the Dakar in the motorcycle section, 4 seconds ahead of Desprez, Roma, Tiernan from Finland, and Pujol from Spain. Roma leading overall, Depre dead level, Tiernan, Sankt and Esteve Puyol. Richard Sankt saying that after the mud of yesterday, we obviously found a dry stage today. Although it was very windy, it was a problem at times when we were in the bowl, down in the bottom of the bowl. Very nice stage, a lot of people. It's fun because in maybe 2 days' time, there'll hardly be anybody cheering us on the side of the stage. Here's Nani Roma, very good stage, he reports here. Some of my friends have taken a short trip up the motorway from Spain to see me battling here, but I didn't take too much of a risk, and I enjoyed the stage, beautiful stage. It really is now the beginning of the Dakar, and I'm content.
It was quite difficult stage because same time you have to drive carefully and also quick, and a lot of stones, of course, but I did okay. I mean, no mistakes, and that's what I was looking for.
"29-year-old Juan, nicknamed Nani Roma from Spain, is on his 7th Dakar rally now and will surely battle at the top of the order on his Repsol KTM. This is him in training a couple of weeks ago, and he's certainly getting some air. And it even happens to the best of them.
Sí, es verdad, porque yo cuando voy
a rider who will have, for example, the qualities
cuando empiezas sobre todo el Dakar, pues a no conducir bien sobre la moto, y por lo tanto cuando mejor estés, mejor llegas y menos errores cometes y menos peligro hay, ¿no? Porque cuando vas por pistas en África son peligrosas, y si te desconcentras y si no vas lo suficientemente bien agarrado o no conduces lo suficientemente bien, pues puedes cometer errores graves que te pueden hacer caer y perder la carrera, ¿no?
Training, of course, very much a part of a professional rider's regime nowadays. It's not just a case of jumping on the bike, donning the helmet and going off. And in the gym and on the rowing machine, you've got to get a sweat up and build those muscles up.
Bueno, pues ahora estamos haciendo esta máquina que es para...
Last year, I damaged and broke the ligaments in my right leg, just about here. And it's taken me all of 12 months to build up the strength in those ligaments once more. Otherwise, I will not be able to stand on 2 legs properly and move my weight around the bike when I'm on the stages. Also in the pool, exercising the cardiovascular areas in every which way. Still even looking every part a professional swimmer, never mind a rally raid rider. Nani's saying the pool is obviously part of my regime as well. And I'm actually not really a very good swimmer, but I have to train every part of my body, try out all of the muscles, and the pool helps me in that way. Now, 5 kilometers away, he marches into the house of Jordi Arcarons. Not quite the little and large show from Spain, but the large and large show with regards to rally raiding. Nani's saying a rider who will have the qualities of Jordi and I will be a brilliant rider. Nowadays, we're in the same team, and for me, his experience is very important, because every day he can help me in studying the stage of a rally with me. I've done only 6 Dakars, and there are a lot of places that I still have never seen. Jordi saying, I always give a couple of briefings every day for Nani. Well, maybe one big one at the beginning of the rally, and then another one at the halfway point of the rally, for example, in Attar. My problem on this rally is the first part. After that, after Attar, I know what I'm doing, and I reckon I'll get to the finish. Well, after the mud of La Souterraine, it was a real world rally type of stage, with Kenjiro Shinazuka making his preparations. And this is Jean-Louis Schlesser. Now, remember, he's starting back in 68th position after the dramas of yesterday. He says, it's not for the first time that I will start a stage from way, way back in the order. Nothing is for sure. He never certainly can count it out with Schless. So then, Gregoire Demavius, look at this, really on it through the stage. Exhaust spitting flame through the V6 in the brand new Nissan crew cab. Built in South Africa. What a job they've done. Very good run, good flow. He was quickest through the stage. He said he had to keep his front wheels in the tracks and the rears follow. Second on the stage, Jean-Louis Schlesser fought his way through. He was very happy that people got out of the way and made a path for him. Remember that the slower cars were starting in front of him. Jutta Kleinschmidt, she had a good day. Third on the stage with her Mitsubishi Pajero, some 57 seconds back. Carlos Souza, Hiroshi Mashioka. Hiroshi Mashioka had his front diff temperature running at 141 degrees, normally running at 120, but he got to the finish and discovered that he still had a piece of tape over the front of the radiator. Stefan Pederhansel in the other Nissan. He caught Prieto easily for 2 minutes on the stage, and he had eggs thrown at his car by various people in the crowd. Same happened to Mashioka as well. What about Jean-Pierre Fontenay? Good stage for him, although he said that he really only got into the rhythm right at the end. Glad to see so many people on the stage. He was happy. Kenjiro Shinazuka, happy to drive at Chateau Las Tours in the dry. Found some places slippery, but glad that the car feels the same as it did when he drove it in the test on December the 19th. Jose Maria Servia in the V6 petrol Kangoo out of the Schlesser workshops. Good day for him, finishing in 9th position. Just one place ahead of Saeed Al-Hajri, who got caught behind French skiers Luc Alphonse diesel Mitsubishi for some 12 kilometers, and even the placid Qatar driver was a little agitated by the time he got to the finish. Many people catching many others on the stage, and of course with some drivers concentrating on the road ahead of them rather than their mirrors, some people did get very frustrated, but not as much as car 287, the Japanese crew of Saki and Yamada in their Toyota Land Cruiser. But as always, the crowds on the edge of the stage is so enthusiastic to get the crew back on its, well, not necessarily feet, but wheels. Who said that rally raiding was not a crowd participation sport?
Yes, it is.
Supporting the Sugawara truck, fortunately, Saki was okay. Not a little embarrassed. What about Bruno Sabi? He had a good start to the stage in the rear-wheel drive Ford, really chucking it around at the start, finding his way through the dust, but it was not all plain sailing. It can even catch out people on these Mickey Mouse, supposedly, stages. Look at this, never mind a tyre inflation-deflation system. Complete disaster for Sabi. Got to the finish, and a picture says 1,000 words. After a few kilometers, I had this puncture, and there's nothing I could really do. Not enough time for me to change it, so I just had to slow down, try and do a bit of damage limitation, and not break anything more important. So, good day for Gregoire, winning the stage ahead of Schlesser by nearly a minute. Good run by the Belgian. Kleinschmidt third, Souza, and then Masuoka on the stage. And overall, Gregoire leads the Dakar 2002 ahead of Jutta Kleinschmidt, Peter Hansel, Souza and Masuoka.
On a bien roulé, je pense qu'on a gardé un très bon rythme dès le départ.
Gregoire saying it was okay for us. We kept a good rhythm right from the start. I tried to be clean, but we have to keep the rear wheels following the tracks of the front wheels. It really is the best way to win. So Gregoire's WRC experience really coming through here. Obviously, if the rear wheels get onto the marbles, the back comes round. Although it's fun, it's not necessarily quick.
Et effectivement, alors la voiture est parfaite. Il faut la tenir parce que sinon on a toujours l'arrière qui a tendance à emmener un petit peu avec le poids de la voiture.
Jutta Kleinschmidt saying this really is a very good stage, very technical, but these 35 kilometres here at Château Lastour are a very good test. The car's very good, no problem at all to report for us. It's a good start for us. Stefan Peter Hansel saying it's the type of stage, very twisty, sinuous, and it's okay. Maybe at times like a little more power, but the car's very stable. And in a straight line, we're very, very fast. After the first test, we have to now wait for more stages. Reims in Belgium is the home of Gregoire de Mavius, the Nissan France driver, along Stefan Peter Hansel in this year's Dakar. He's a former two-time Group N world champion in '92 and '3 with Mazda and Nissan respectively, and recently he has been a front-runner in the Belgian Rally Championship. And on his beautiful estate, Gregoire has a buggy and a quad on which he thrashes round as part of his training. He certainly has some fun.
Disons que le quad, c'est assez physique.
The quad is very physical, and if you go on it for maybe 1 hour, it certainly is a good exercise, but you have to reserve yourself because you certainly don't need to fall off. But it's very stable, and if you can run it at about 80% of its limit, it's a good feeling for me, and you've got less possibility of hurting yourself. And before my accident in 2000, I ran a great deal, but now if I run, the shock transferred through my legs up my back. It's too much for me to bear nowadays. Further out in his estate, which I can tell you by personal experience is quite stunning, he has got all types of tracks, although I don't quite think he will be fording some streams on the Dakar. And utilising the Nissan Crew Cab, which he will have on this year's Dakar, he will therefore get used to the precise parameters and size of the car for when he needs to go through the technical stages.
For
me, the feeling of racing at top speed is really better than crossing the dunes. I prefer 200 kilometres of a stony stage in Morocco rather than crossing the dunes and slowing up all of the time when I crest the dune. It gives me another kind of satisfaction to do the dunes, but it's more one of survival. For me, the best is just to drive.
Toutes les deux ont une satisfaction, mais la plus belle, c'est pour moi le pilotage.
Leaving Gregoire's estate through the avenue of trees, he goes to the local Nissan dealer where they have just received the cockpit cooling cowlings, which Gregoire decides where to position on top of a similar crew cab, and he can then report the measurements back through to Nissan de Sud, who are building his car. To love difficulty, he says, is in the character of a man, and in each Dakar, each team has its own fight. The fight of all the official teams is to win but for the amateurs, the fight is to arrive in Dakar. And when you are in the rally, you must ask yourself sometimes, why am I here? It's so long, it's so tiring, but I believe that the harder the task, the greater the satisfaction.
pourquoi c'est tellement long, tellement fatigant, mais quand on arrive au bout, on a une satisfaction.
Tomorrow's stage, big day for everybody. It starts from where the Olympic Village would be positioned. Come Madrid, be awarded the Olympic Games in 2012. The crews start just before 8 in the morning, do 15 Ks to the stage, which is only 6 kilometres in length, and then look at that, long liaison down south to Algeciras, near Gibraltar, to travel on the boat to Tangier, and then down to Rabat, where many will arrive just in time for a small New Year's Eve drink.